Hey everyone, Laura here. This week I have been collecting stories. I have been collecting the stories of the people I have the honor to work with and the ones who give me a glimpse into what is really happening within their lives and within their days. And I have also been thinking about one of my favorite songs, and I realized that I can kind of bring this together with a theme that will maybe help you remember some of the little tips that are in this short video here, but also I want to be sure that I'm sharing these things that I learned, these opportunities to think about our lives through the lens of others. And so this week the topic is lyrics and real lives, and some of the things that we're going to cover are going to be stories, the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that people tell about us, the stories that change us, the stories that hold us back until we find a way to process and move ahead. Overwhelm. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the chaos of living busy, purposeful lives and how that can feel kind of crazy and out of control. We're also going to talk about those moments of calm, how to create them, and what you can do with them when you find them. Planning. I know that sounds boring, right? But there are these specific times when you can really get a lot out of your planning, where intentional thought, intentional strategy can make all the difference when you hit another one of those times of volatility. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And we're going to talk about the value of a sounding board. I have the chance to be a sounding board, someone who listens and reflects back and helps people think about how to get out of their own way, about how to process and let go of some of the things that might have happened, and most importantly, how to push themselves to grow as a leader, grow as a person who people will turn to with trust. So many different ways, communication skills, so many different ways that we can grow through having a sounding board. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. First of all, for those of you that don't know me, welcome. I'm going to be doing videos like this from time to time. Of course, my plans are huge, but that actually has to happen, so I'm not going to make any promises quite yet. But once again, my name is Laura Daniels. I own a company called Hitch, and within Hitch, I have two main objectives right now, and those are as a coach and as a speaker. I have lots of ideas of things and services, plans that I can add to Hitch as the company grows. But for right now, I'm very interested in coaching and speaking. And so these videos are not only an opportunity for me to capture ideas and thoughts and lessons, but also an opportunity for you to see my energy and the kind of things that I talk about if ever you're interested in having a high energy speaker help your team or your attendees move out of their head and down into their heart. That is really what I do. Hardworking people sometimes can get a little stuck in the data, in the why of the numbers, in the plan, and I want to move people to the why of their purpose and their ability to serve others. I am also a farmer. I was a dairy farmer for 15 years. Best job on earth, loved every minute of it. We sold our cows last year in order to free up time to do new cool things. I certainly remain a farmer. Now I run the row crops and the alfalfa, the hay part of our business, and then together with my family, we also operate a beef herd. So definitely very involved in agriculture, and many of my stories will be from the farm or from people who work with the farm. But if you're not in agriculture, please just come along with us for the ride. It's a great opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about what makes these crazy farmers tick, but also I'll try to keep examples universal so that you can also draw the lesson. You can always reach out to me. There is my email address, Laura at hitchpinllc.com. hitchllc.com. Drop me a note if you have any questions or if anything I say causes you to think about something in a new way. I love to know that that happened. And then also, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at hitch.pin. That's probably the fastest way to find me in either of those platforms. Cows Are My Life, that is my handle on Twitter, and there is always going to be a picture of a Jersey cow in every presentation that I do. Again, being a farmer, it was so important to me. I learned so much about hard work and building great teams and understanding that purpose really does move you forward. That's not the topic for today. We're going to get back to the lyrics. Write your own story. Now, I believe that we all are trying to do that. We all want to be in control of the story that we tell. We want to be able to make choices for where we go and how we have our impact in the world. Sometimes we feel like we are writing our own story. Sometimes we feel like that story is being written for us. And the examples that I'm going to share today, you're going to see both. But what kind of brought me to this idea as a theme was one of my favorite songs from Brandi Carlile, and I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called The Story. And, I just want to share a few lyrics, and I'm going to do that throughout today's short video. All of these lines across my face tell you the story of who I am. So many stories of where I've been and how I got to where I am. I want to start out with a story that I heard within the last few weeks here about a woman who is incredibly successful now and is working hard to decide how she will write her story. And I am so honored to be beside her as she works through some of those hard questions. But she told me about a thing that happened quite some time ago. She was at a banquet. It was her first job out of college, and she was thriving. She was top of the sales and was really achieving everything that her company asked her to. She thought she was doing what she needed to in order to have success in her career. At this banquet, which should have been a celebration, someone said something to her that jumped straight over any lines that we might think were just crude language, straight to sexual harassment. And this event changed her. I could hear that it had changed her career in her description. I knew that. But I know also that it changed her life. This event, which she did report, was swept under the rug. And this isn't okay. These are the stories. You don't have to be female to have a story that one thing someone said in front of other people or alone changed you. That is part of who we are. It's part of what we have to process. It's part of what we have to understand other people might be going through. Even if nothing like that ever happened to you, I need you to know things like that do happen. And the people that happen to, they don't want to talk about it because it's hard and it's not okay. A second story is about a brave young woman who showed up for herself, advocated for herself, negotiated higher salary when she started her position. We talk about this all the time, how you have to ask, how you have to be there. You have to ask for what you need. And she did all of that. And she was proud of herself, and she had great mentoring through that process. But what happened next is that she was made to feel guilty that she asked for more. She was literally called selfish in her first job. Again, I've known her for some time. I never would have known this was part of her story. She would never have had a reason to tell me. And while she smiled to the outside world and dealt with the feelings that were piling up because they were being piled up at her feet, she somehow managed to do amazing work. She got noticed and she got great job offers, and she doesn't work at that company anymore. And I just think about that. So many times we say ask. We say ask for the raise, negotiate, show up for yourself. That's what we hear. But ask for the seat at the table. I say that all the time. But what happens after you get there? What happens after you're successful in that negotiation? What happens after you get to the meeting where you finally have a seat? Now you have to find a way to be sure you're heard. It doesn't end with asking for what you need. And that was really important to me to understand as I help guide people. A couple of more lines from the song. You see the smile that's on my mouth? It's hiding the words that don't come out. All of my friends think that I am blessed. They don't know. My head is a mess. I tell you what, as my friend was telling me that story, I just thought to myself, how many times, no matter your gender, are you acting like you own it, or you know that you have the skill, you have the talent, you have the words, you have the ideas, but behind your empowered persona, behind that smile, there's so much going on. So much going on. I know how many times people thought, wow, she's really got it going on. And I'm thinking, I just can't even hardly keep it together today. My head is a mess. Such a great line from that song. Every time I hear that, I think, yes, that. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about another thing that happens. Because we are here for the struggle, aren't we? And just to get, I forgot I had these slides. We're going to keep this real. That's from my brave friend now. Corn, it is planting season. There is so much going on the farms. And one of my clients manages the shop and the maintenance at the dairy where he works. And making sure these little corn pop up out of the ground is his number one objective. Normally, springtime is so chaotic at this farm and at most farms, but the weather has been good. They have been able to prepare the fields. A lot of things are falling into place. And he, over really working on his leadership and communication skills, developing the people on his team for the last year, he is more ready. And this last week, we talked about this, how you plan in times of calm so that you are ready in times of chaos. And I am so proud of his progress. I am so happy for him and his team that they are able to have this calm, but he didn't always have it. He certainly has showed up for our calls being stressed out. He has had things that have happened that caused a lot of volatility at the farm within his team. And I also just want us to remember that it's not just volatility, it's not just chaos, it's not just overwhelm. We do have times of calm. We can use those times to get ready. And so I don't want you to lose track of that, because that's when you're singing your own song, right? That's when you feel like, you're whistling to yourself as you work, those times when you are in flow. I also reflected in a conversation today about a time when I knew my voice mattered because someone who was in the room reminded me of that. I was part of a conversation years ago in an influential organization where they weren't hearing the voices of all of their coworkers, where the culture that they wanted to create wasn't getting down to the ground level. And I was able to be a part of a conversation where leadership listened to the stories of people whose voices were not being heard. Just so cool. What a great reminder that all of this matters. And it brings me to my last story. This is about my friend who has, and client, she's both. She has so many things going on. She is a talented, creative, and very, very organized mom, caretaker, farmer, and we started talking about overwhelm. And we started talking about burnout. And I could feel through her stories, her examples, that this is the space where she is. She told me a few things. She wanted to find space to focus. And she just really doesn't have a lot of that. And she's going to work to find more of that space, more of that time. And it's not going to be hours at a time, but she needs to find a way to steal those moments. Send her son out to the field to ride along when all that corn is getting planted, so that she can create a little space to find herself again, because she hasn't seen that really awesome gal in a while. And we talked about how within the block of time to focus, it is not just about her to-do list. I asked her, I challenged her to take 5, 10, maybe someday she'll work up to 15 minutes of quiet time where she can write, she can dream, she can enjoy a cup of coffee, but not working on the to-do list. Because if we can't find those moments of calm, if we can't find that time to plan for ourselves and our own well-being, we're not going to be able to serve others. And for her, there's nothing more important. For most of us, there is nothing more important. I use this photo for her because one of the other things that she wants to do is find time to get back in the barn. So many of her other roles and her other responsibilities have taken that time away from her, and she loves her cows, and she loves the peace that she can find, that she immediately can click into when she is in the barn with her cows. A really important takeaway from that conversation is that being overwhelmed is normal. Being overwhelmed is normal. It is normal if you are a person who wants to get so much out of your life. It is normal if you want to find your purpose, live your purpose, make a difference, make the world a better place. Whatever language you use to capture that, you are going to feel overwhelmed. That's just part of the deal, because you want a lot. You want to create a lot. You want to do a lot. You cannot do that. You cannot have a huge impact without moments of pushing too far, saying yes too many times, and becoming overwhelmed. Please know that if you are in overwhelm, it's okay. You can reel yourself back, and you know what that feels like. You know when you're bumping up on the edge of it the next time. This is important information for you. But don't you ever, ever, ever correlate overwhelm with failure. Even if your overwhelm feels chronic, even if you don't have a great strategy to get out of that overwhelm, and you're headed straight towards burnout right now, I still don't ever, ever, ever want you to say the words overwhelm, burnout, and failure as if they are even in the realm of being the same thing, because they are not. People who try, people who take risk, people who care, those are people who feel overwhelmed. Those are the same people who, by definition, are not failing. You are out there doing it, trying. That is not failure. That is success. You are succeeding at getting a lot out of yourself. I know I'm belaboring this point, but I think it's such a big deal. Overwhelm is not failure. Back to where we started, writing your own story. If you need help doing that, I want you to know I'm here. It's what I do. I'm a sounding board. I ask hard questions. I also help you reflect on your tremendous talent because you forget that you are tremendously talented. It's important that you have people who remind you of that. It's important that you have someone who can be that sounding board and walk side by side with you as you come up with a plan to write a beautiful story, to write a story that you're intentional about. Let me know if I can help with that. And so I want to leave room here at the end to go back to what are the opening lines, or the chorus, I guess the chorus I should say, in this favorite song of mine. Stories don't mean anything when you've got no one to tell them to. I love that. You need help figuring out the stories of your life. It's okay. Like, people who are kicking butt and taking names, they have that kind of help. And so I urge you to consider it and go find someone, a great mentor, or someone like me who can be a coach, where you get intentional and you have someone to hold you accountable, because you want to have great stories to tell. I also want to remind you that you want people to tell them to. And getting your priorities organized and making sure that the people in your life, whether that is your family or that's your team or that's your extended family or that's your really close cohort of friends, you want to have these great stories to tell to people who matter to you. And therefore, you need to prioritize who is on that list and how you are going to keep those relationships strong. And again, however I can help, I would love to do that, but I want to urge you to write your own story. I want to urge you to be intentional about that. And let me know. Let me know if I can help. Let me know if this kind of a video is useful to you. I really have no idea how I'm going to distribute any of this, but I do want it to be a resource, and I want to share it with people who I think can get something out of it. So, I'm just going to get rid of that and thank you for your time. And as always, reach out if you have an idea or if I can help by hearing your story and helping you write an even better one. Thanks, everyone.